Welcome to Kids Matter. I'm Dr. Elisa Minkin. As a pediatrician, mom, and grandma, I understand how challenging it can be to help our kids grow into their best selves. We are so much more powerful together. Here, I will be sharing the knowledge and wisdom of a wide range of people who understand and care deeply about children. I'm hoping for your input as well, because kids really do matter. They are our future.
Welcome back to the Kids Matter podcast. I'm really honored and really excited to be here today with Dr. Lee Sharma. Dr. Sharma is a gynecologist, conflict resolution expert, and host of the award-winning podcast, Scalpel and Sword, which I was on,
Yes.
and I'm going to link to that. With over 30 years of experience in medicine and advocacy, she works at the intersection of healthcare, communication, and conflict, helping clinicians and organizations turn tension into transformation. Based in Auburn, Alabama, Dr. Sharma consults with physicians, hospitals, and medical institutions to improve patient care, strengthen teams, and support clinician well-being through better communication and conflict management. When she's not working, she's an ultramarathoner, fourth-degree black belt, an avid traveler who enjoys great food, wine, and time spent reading. So, wow, what a bio. This is amazing. I'm so excited to be on the other side of the microphone after being on your
Elisa,
amazing podcast.
Elisa, it was so much fun to have you on the show. So I am so happy to be here.
Mutual, absolutely mutual. So let's get into it. The reason that I wanted you to come on my podcast is because I had done 2 episodes related to bullying. They were 2 different angles. And as I was doing the second interview with the teacher, Rivka Fishman, I said out loud, we need to talk more about conflict resolution. And she said, oh, that's done in the social emotional learning curriculum. I'm thinking, really? Is it really done? And I really think that in today's really polarized times, we need this more than ever. We need it in schools and we need it in the home. So I really wanted to hear about your model, how you got into this. Let's start with how you got into this, and then we'll get to your model, and then we're going to bring it into those fields, if that's okay.
Absolutely. I'm so excited to be here. So I finished residency in 1997 and joined a group practice. I was the only female. And within about a year, realized I was just really unhappy. And I thought that I was unhappy because I didn't like practicing medicine, which was terrifying because I'd spent 12 years of my life learning how to do that. And didn't really know what was going on, was actually almost talking about a career change with my husband. We had 2 small children. And I said, I think I want to do a health policy fellowship. And instead of finding a health policy fellowship, I found a master's program in conflict resolution, which it wasn't even something I knew existed. I didn't even know was a field. But as I started reading about it, there were a lot of things that appealed to me. The universality of understanding conflict, it's everywhere. It's endemic. We're all going to encounter it somewhere, usually on a daily basis. And understanding conflict and learning how to work with it taught me some really important things. First and foremost, that I think I'm a very conflict avoidant person, naturally. Didn't like conflict, it scared me. And so when I encountered it professionally or personally, I didn't know how to deal with it. And it would just really wear me down and tear me down emotionally, physically, mentally. Mental exhaustion is real. If you're spending your 24 hours replaying a conflict over and over, that really does take a toll on you. And I definitely was a person that did that. It really
Same here, sister.
Yeah. Oh, and it's amazing, Lisa, how many doctors are conflict avoidant. Over 60% of us are. We all live in that space.
And people pleasers.
Yes. Oh my goodness. And as I learned that,
so we do a lot of that.
We really do. And as I learned a lot of those things about myself, it really gave me the ability to not only understand conflict, but understand it can be transformative, understand that good things can come out of it. Conflict isn't always bad. So I was able to come back with that work and start consulting for hospitals and doing mediations with physician practices, helping doctors who were going through peer review processes, and basically understanding that there are ways that we can learn to approach this. And so after 20 years of doing this work, and this work has, since my kids are older now, they're 27 and 26, so they're out of the house and off living their best lives, that it gave me a chance to spend more time doing this work. And so it allowed me to really develop models that not only can be used by healthcare professionals, but can be used by anybody to actually understand and approach a conflict. And This is the kind of stuff, it's almost a hidden curriculum. It's not something that's easily accessible. And like your friend was saying, oh, is this part of the social? Not really. We don't understand that conflict is one of those things. There's not just one factor, variable you address in conflict. It's the system surrounding the conflict. It's the parties involved in the conflict. It's the history. It's the culture. Everything plays into that. And so anything you're doing to work with conflict, and especially with children, because children are going to first and foremost model what they see from their parents and their authority figures. And so if the parents haven't learned how to do conflict well, the children aren't going to have an opportunity to learn to do conflict well. And I think that's the first thing. Parents, unfortunately, with kids in conflict, sometimes we have two responses. We tell children to ignore it. Oh, ignore it, it'll be fine. Or we tell them to fight back. Neither one of those are good solutions. And we also don't consider the fact that a lot of times when kids are in conflict, it's different from adults or it's different from health professionals. There's a power imbalance that's there. If an older child is bullying a younger child, that's a power differential, and it completely changes the nature of how we address it.
I love that you said that. And that's how I got my title, Fight or Flight. There has to be a better way because, right? Fight the conflict or flight avoidance. And we seem to think those are our only options. Do you create the model that we're going to talk about, the Spark model, yourself?
Yes.
Oh
Yes.
my God. I love it. Can you please tell us about it? SPARC.
Yes. So the steps are S stands for stop. P stands for pause. And I know people think stopping and pausing are similar, but they're different. We'll get into that. A is ask, don't assume. R is respond, don't react. And C is create. So let's say that you have somebody, and again, this is a model that can definitely be used for children and with children. So one of the biggest things when kids get in conflict, and truly this is anybody, it's that feeling of not being safe. Children feel very intensely, and sometimes they can feel better than they can verbalize. As adults, sometimes we can put names to our feelings, but that's harder for kids, I think. So, but I always say I can tell I'm in conflict because my chest starts to get tight, my breathing starts to get shallow, and a lot of times my body will know that I'm in conflict before my mind does. So one of the things I've had to learn to do is to really be attuned to that physically. Same thing with children. Can we help children feel when they are in the situations? You know, they start to feel like they want to get tight, like they want to roll up in a little ball. These are physical signs that they're in conflict. Okay, so once they're feeling that, stop. I'm not comfortable. I need to step away. Can I go outside? These are things that we can teach kids as a mechanism to stop a conflict that they feel is starting to begin. And I always teach people using Spark to find your default phrase. Whatever your default phrase is, find it and use it. Mine is, I need to take a second. That is mine. And it happens without me even, like if I feel that conflict coming on, I need to take a second. But everybody can play with, and I think this is where role playing is great for children. They can play with what that phrase would be. So we are learning how to stop. That's the S. Now that we've stopped, we're going to pause. So how are stopping and pausing different? Stopping is external. I'm stopping the external forces around me right now. I'm actually making that go quiet. But now I'm going to take a second and internally assess what's going on with me. So you're giving the child a chance to start some emotional regulation. You've got a second to stop. I'm going to just take a really deep breath here. I'm going to ask myself, and I think especially with older children, what am I feeling right now? What's scaring me right now? What's going on that's making me feel like I'm in a conflict situation? And sometimes it might be a familiar trigger. Sometimes it might be a situation where they've been bullied over and over and they find themselves in that situation again. But whatever it is, they're taking a second to emotionally regulate where they are.
Yeah, I just want to stop you for just a second because I'm always talking about neurodivergent versus neurotypical kids. And you also mentioned age. So I want to make it really clear that our role as parents or teachers is to be modeling this and doing this more than expecting our kids to be able to do it. And over time, they will learn, but at different rates and at different ages. I'm just saying.
So that's 100% true. And it's so interesting. I think for children that have never seen this kind of stuff modeled, and especially if they've been in home situations where mom and dad are fighting a lot, where they're seeing parents that are in conflict in a very negative, hurtful way, it's really even more important for them to have other adults or people in their lives that are modeling this for them. So it is something that we have to practice what we preach 100%.
And we
So
can't
now
just
that
preach it. We may have to have expectations. Sorry, we have expectations of our child is going to do the best they can, right? Kids do best
yes,
well if they can, to quote the amazing Dr. Russ Green. So to have the understanding that you may listen to this and you may try to do this. Oh, it didn't work. Okay. It's not,
yeah,
it's a marathon, not a sprint. And it's
right,
developmental,
right.
right? The ability to self-regulate,
And
for example, is individual to the child and also developmental.
And even as adults, I work on this. This is something I have to actively practice, is this idea of emotional regulation, because it was not something that was modeled for me. So this is something I am learning very late, but I'm starting to understand when I get in conflict, sometimes the biggest person I have to pay attention to is me. I'm the person that I really have to regulate. I can't control the person in front of me. I can't. What I can do is I can control and I can try to regulate myself. And I understand, especially, and it's crazy, right? If you know your children are watching you and you are about to get into this situation, it is even more important for me to be able to model this for them. It actually, if I know my child is watching me in conflict, I'm going to be more invested in the process because I want them to understand it and be able to
Right.
hopefully do this as
Right.
well.
And also, I want to bring up the point that I think we have this, I'm always talking about this perfect parenting trap, right? You go on social media and they have all these gentle parenting experts, and you're like, why am I not good at this? So you're doing this, you're in conflict, say, with your spouse or your partner or whatever, and you feel like, oh, I didn't do the spark thing. I stink. No, because that's a chance for
Yep.
repair, because that's how we learn,
Yes.
and we're human, and you're modeling being a human. And you're still
Yes.
trying, you're not going to give up. There is no perfect parenting, and there is no perfect conflict resolution skills.
No. I had actually had a conflict with my son, my adult son, 3 or 4 months ago, where I said something that I really shouldn't have said. And I realized I didn't say it. And I had to call my son. And it's like, I'm really sorry because I did not handle that well.
Good for
Next
you.
time this situation happens, this is how I'd like to handle it. And I apologize for how I handled it before.
Rock
And
star.
anytime you do that, it's you prioritize. And anytime we're in a conflict, I know we're jumping around a little bit, but anytime we're in a conflict, the paramount thing we're trying to preserve is the relationship. The relationship always comes first. So as we're going through these steps, where I'm actually saying, I'm not just wanting to manage this conflict and say bye. I want to do this in such a way that we keep the relationship intact and maybe even make the relationship a little stronger. So now I've paused. I'm regulating. We're hoping that our children are watching this regulation. And now I'm going to ask. I'm going to ask a question. And I'm going to ask, like in a conflict situation, if I feel like I'm being bullied, I'm going to ask, what did you mean by that? I'm going to ask what, and maybe if I'm older, or maybe if I have a little phrase that I practiced, what was your intent behind that statement? What were you trying to do with that action? And I'm not hopefully going to ask it in such a way that I'm accusing. I really want to know. Curiosity is one of the things that I think children have that's so beautiful that I always think that adults should emulate. It's one of the most beautiful things about children is they are unafraid of asking why. Why is their favorite question? This is one of those things in this step of Spark. Why is our favorite question? What is going on here? I want to seek to understand. So I'm going to exercise that curiosity. And part of doing that, and especially as adults engaging in this process, I'm not making an assumption. And that's why A stands for ask, don't assume. It's so interesting to me in conflict, and especially as adults watching children, how we start to assign meaning to what other children do, especially if our children are the ones that are being bullied. We're going to start assigning meaning to that other kid. That kid's terrible. That kid's horrible. That kid has horrible parents. Whatever meaning we're going to assign to the situation, you don't know what's going on with that poor child. You really don't. You don't know what that child has to deal with. You don't know what's going on in that child's home. You don't know anything else, but you really want to have that exercise of curiosity. So we're going to ask what's going on, and we're going to encourage our children to exercise that curiosity as well.
I have a question, and my question is, does this have to happen all in the same time frame?
No, not at all. So if we're breaking this down to a stop and a pause, and especially if, let's say, if we've got two children by themselves, if we've got two children by themselves and they can stop and they can pause, at that pause, if one of the children or both, but if one particularly isn't feeling like they're not safe, again, this is the sensation a lot of times children have in conflict, is they feel like they're in a position where they're not safe. This is an opportunity for them to go to find somebody else, to go find an adult, find somebody else that can be a safety net. And then as they proceed through the process, and maybe if the child has a hard time proceeding through the steps, the adult can be the one that starts. So what was the intent? What was going on? Explain to me what was happening. Again, we're investigating. We're not assuming, we're not punishing, we're investigating. We are trying to understand what's going on.
But what I'm thinking is not every even parent, for example, might be regulated enough to move on to the ask, or the
Right?
child might be too dysregulated. And I'm saying, could you say,
Right.
okay, we're going to just calm down and we're going to find
Mhm.
out later? Can you take a really big
Yes.
pause, like overnight? I'm just
Absolutely.
throwing this out there.
There's no, and this is the beauty, this is the beautiful part about stopping and pausing,
Mhm.
is that we have absolutely created, and also too, I think it's really important for children to know they have the power to do this. You are empowering the child to know that they can, at any point in time, say, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. And then step back. And even as just to laying a hand on the chest and taking a breath. That's it. That's where we are. And then at a later point in time, to find a trusted adult, a parent, a authority figure of some kind, to proceed through the rest of the steps, to actually perform this act of curiosity. Absolutely, it can stop right there. And then children know that they have the ability to do that.
I love that. I love that. You want to do more ask? Or are you ready to go to reflect, respond?
Let's go to reflect and respond, because
Okay.
I think the act of curiosity is really powerful. But then what happens next is that, and I love the idea of helping people learn how to verbalize. And again, it's really hard. Like I talk about for neurodivergent children, it's sometimes I think for all children. Like I think about one time my daughter had a really hard, I don't remember what happened, if it was necessarily a bullying conflict, but she was caught up in something at school. And I think she was 8 or 9 years old. And she had just read, was it Alexander's No Good, Very Bad Day? She had just read that book. And so she was crying and she was in her room. And I'm like, baby, what's up? What's up? And talk to me. What's going on? And she goes, I don't know, good, very bad day. And it was really, I felt horrible for her that she was having a really bad time. But I thought it was cool that she was able to use something she read in a book to verbalize how she felt. And so she was able to respond. This is how I'm feeling right now. This is what's going on with me. And response can be anything from quoting a book, drawing a picture. How do you express what's going on in here so that the other person can understand what's going on? I think drawing is a beautiful way to work with conflict. I think even for adults, I will do this. I'll have them write out things on sticky notes and make trees, so that they have a big tree where we can find alignment with goals. Because if you have one group making stickies, the other group making stickies, but then you start putting stickies on the same place and people go, oh, I had no idea we had this in common. I think visual tools can go a long way in reflecting and responding, because you're giving everybody's got a chance now to be heard. And that is the goal of reflecting and responding. You want people in conflict to actually feel like not only that they have a safe space to verbalize these things, but they are actually being heard. And when you let people speak in such a way they're feeling respected in what they say, they feel like what they're saying is valuable, that they mean something. Children feel that way. How incredible is that? So we're giving them a chance to do that. And then the C is for create. We said one of the things that's paramount in this process is we're trying to preserve relationships. And so as we're trying to preserve this relationship, I've had a chance to stop and pause. We've had a chance to find a safe space. I've listened and been curious about what's going on with you. I've had a chance to respond with what's going on with me. And now let's create something. What is this going to look like if it happens again? We pray that this doesn't happen again. But how has this changed our relationship? Do you look at me differently now? Do you actually are going to make space for my voice rather than maybe just pushing your way into my space or into my conversation next time. And that's what's really the win. And I love this, Lisa, that you say this, that this whole process, especially when we're talking about children, it could be weeks. It could be months.
I'm so happy you said that.
Yeah. This is not this. And I think this is one of the biggest things in conflict resolution. And I think when people talk about conflict in general, sometimes that second word, resolution, can be a little misleading because we feel like we haven't succeeded until we've resolved. I completely disagree with that. If we've started the process in any way, shape, or form, if we have found the power even just to say stop, that is a win. That is success. We have started the process. We've given people tools to start the process. That is a win. If resolution comes months down the road, years down the road, it may be a long time before we actually learn how to do this in real time. That's still a win because we've started the road.
I love that so much. How would this look? Can we have some scenarios how we could apply it? Maybe in a school setting, maybe in a home setting. I'm asking a lot.
Yeah. So
Being very vague here.
So I'm gonna do a little, I'm not gonna call it therapy, but I'm gonna throw myself back a little bit to when I was in 7th grade. I was horribly bullied when I was in 7th grade. I had a bunch of girls who were picking on me, who were being really ugly to me. I never told my parents. I didn't want my parents to know that this was going on with me. And so I actually had a diary in my backpack. And I was outside and they stole the diary out of my backpack and they read it in front of the entire class. So the teacher, I think, knew this had happened, but I don't think she was getting involved. So I went back inside and I grabbed my backpack and I cried. And I, at that point, did actually go home and tell my parents what was going on, and who were incredibly supportive once they realized what was going on. I think they felt bad that I didn't tell them before. So I'm going to go back to that situation. So I'm in this conflict now. I am being bullied. Somebody has stolen my backpack and has taken my diary out of my backpack. So what could I have done at that point? Stop. Put that down. That's my diary. Put that down. And now I'm going to take a second and I'm going to, okay, how am I feeling right now? I'm feeling really violated that they read my personal thoughts, and I don't like how that feels. And it's okay to feel that way. This was personal and they shouldn't have done that. So what happens next? So rather than walking away, because part of walking away at that point is I don't have a chance to make myself feel heard. I have lost any kind of investment in the situation. So what I can do at that point is, what were you trying to do in reading my diary? What were you interested in? What did you want to know? Because I can tell you anything about me that you want to know. What were you interested in? Now, that's an interesting question, because a lot of people now, you are engaging in this process. That feels very good. I'm not afraid. I'm in this process now. And whatever they say is, you were hiding it, and whatever answer they were going to say. And it's, okay, so I hear you. I don't like that happened. My words are my words, and they are personal. And so the next time you are tempted to take my personal property, how are we going to deal with this? So let's create a boundary. Let's create a wall. Now, what I would hope would happen at this point, and may not have, but what I'd hope that this was, oh, we might just do it again or whatever. So if you do that again, then I am going to tell somebody. I am going to say that you took my property. I am going to go to a teacher. I am going to go to somebody who is superior so that we can make sure this doesn't happen again. So that's one situation that we can actually play this out. Is that
Can I make it harder? What if they read something out loud that was really embarrassing? Like, how is that going to help?
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, I think that's a great question, because there's lots of ways they could go through that situation that could be really hurtful. And one of the things I think is really hard is I really do want to know your intent in doing that. What did you want to know? And if your intent was to hurt me, if that's what you were trying to do, then I might say, I hear that you were just curious, or that. It's reasonable to say at that point, it feels like your intent was to hurt me. Because that is what you're feeling right now. That is your response. So I feel like your intent was to hurt me. And you are being honest about that. Again, that's a very powerful place to be. You're being very honest about this process and what this means to you. Now, what you may be creating at this point is not necessarily repairing a relationship. You might be creating a boundary, which is just as important. I think that's just as pivotal. Because I think I was 12 So that's an age
Middle
that I
age.
think, hmm?
Do you think that you could have done that? Could you think the 12-year-old you could do that? Could have done that? Really, honestly.
I'm thinking about it.
To be fair, just
I
because
think
one
I
of the
think the
problems.
12-year-old, yeah, I think the
Mhm.
12-year-old me at the very least could have stopped and paused and maybe asked the question. I don't know that I could have gone further than that. Now, also too, I look at the way some of my children have dealt with conflict. I've watched some of them. I think when they got older, I think when they were in the 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old range, I think that totally could have been something that they would have been able to do. I think at 12, that would have been really hard.
Because one thing that came up in my talk with Rivka Fishman is the need in school settings for an adult to be involved. And the same would be true for the home environment, that
Right.
we can't ask kids to do more than they're developmentally capable of doing.
Yes.
And so by the time they're teenagers, they should be more able to handle things unless there's violence or something more severe. But for the
Right.
younger kids, we're going to be there, right? We're going to be keeping
Yes.
the kids feeling safe by being the adult. And one thing she said is when there's no adult there or when the adult stands there and does nothing, that's the worst thing because they really feel unsafe.
I think that's what happened to me. There was an adult there that I think knew what was happening and didn't do anything. So I think that would have made the difference. If the adult had actually been in that situation and said, hey, you guys, you can't do that, or would have stopped that process, I think that would have gone a long way in mitigating that conflict. I absolutely agree with you.
So that's a good example for school. Let's try something from the home. I like having examples. So
Yeah.
people can
Yeah.
sort of make this a little more practical in their minds. Although I love this model so much. I really do.
I'm
Spark.
so glad. It's been really interesting to watch how applicable it is, that it was really created. I really created it for use in operating rooms and high pressure situations. But I think what's been really fascinating in its application is that it travels everywhere and it is independent of time. It works well in a fast situation, but it works just as well drawn out over a longer period of time. No, it's been real cool to see how people benefit from it. I've enjoyed that. So,
You know, it'd be great. I'm sorry. You know, it'd be great would be
what?
a children's book using the model for different ages. I just had that idea. If somebody who's
Oh,
listening, maybe they'll want to do that. Collaborate with you.
I was about to say, you and I can
Maybe we could
collaborate
do
on
it.
that. We can,
I love this
hey,
idea. I
the
love this
collaboration
idea.
is born. We're going to write a children's book about Spark. I love this. Oh,
Yeah.
that's going to happen. That's going to happen.
Right.
Okay.
I love
So
it.
we're going to take a home situation
A home
and we're going to
situation.
use the same. Okay.
Yeah.
So do you want to, we can want to take two parents that are in conflict,
Well,
or a parent and,
yeah, let's talk about how you could model it as parents, because I'm
okay.
afraid that for kids, it's asking a lot that they
Yeah.
could learn it over time, but it's asking a lot. So
Yeah.
let's have how parents could model it.
Yeah. One of the first things, and I want to come back to this because I think this is really important when we talk about children witnessing parents fighting. And this was something that I really had to learn, especially as I was going through my master's, because I will freely admit, again, I was conflict avoidant. And because of that, when I did fight with my spouse, we didn't fight well. We were not good at it. I especially was not good at it. I fought dirty all the time. And when I say I fought dirty, I would bring up stuff that he had done 5 years ago. I was not good. I was not good. And I will freely admit that. So one of the things I learned really quickly in terms of fighting, especially with children in the house with little ears around, was we're going to disagree. Let's disagree well. Let's set up rules. And my husband was like, okay, like what are rules? It's number one, we should not fight in front of the children. We really should not. If at all possible, if we know we're about to get into one, we need to leave the room and go. It doesn't mean that kids won't know what's happening. They'll know what's happening, but we need to set up some rules about that. We need to set up ground rules about what we're fighting about. And he's, what do you mean? If we're having a fight about X topic, I don't get to bring up Y topic from 3 months ago. If I was going to disagree with you about that, I should have done 3 months ago. So this is what we were talking about and nothing else. And okay, this is interesting. I said, okay. So once we have agreed about what we're fighting about, now it's okay to have our disagreement. And now that we're having our disagreement, we can actually talk about this one thing. We can ask, we can not assume, we can respond, and then we can create a solution. So what this looks like in front of the child. So the adults are about to get into it. Again, you can feel that you're about to, I know for me, when I'm mad at my husband, it's not this thing, it's like I can tell that I'm getting mad at him. And he is a very he's a very calm guy. So it takes a lot to get him upset. But I can definitely tell when I am. So when I can feel it, that's when I stop. And say, hey, can we go upstairs for a second? And so again, in the home, what conflict looked like, it doesn't look like that anymore because we're empty nesters. But at that point, that's what it looked like. We would go upstairs to our bedroom, and this is our stopping. We're geographically moving location. So that's number one.
Wait a second. Then they don't see the arc.
Well, I knew my children listened outside the door. Like when my husband and I were fighting, they would come and listen. I knew that they did. I caught them outside there sometimes. I'd open the door and they'd be standing there. They'd be listening to what we did. And children are always very aware of what their parents are doing. But we'll just go ahead and say that this is happening in front of the kids. So we'll say that our stop happens. We're in the kitchen. Everybody's in the kitchen. So this conflict is starting to ensue. So I feel it happening and say, can we stop for 1 second? Right there. So we've stopped. The process is no longer escalating. We're stopped. Let's say we're fighting about something in the checkbook. Somebody bought something the other person didn't agree on buying. Okay, so this is what we're fighting about. So now we're going to pause, and I'm going to take a second and I'm going to go, what am I really upset about right now? I spent money on X. My husband doesn't like it. Okay. Let me think about this for a second. Let me think about why I'm upset. I'm upset because I bring home a paycheck too. So I'm not sure why we have to have this conversation. Now I'm thinking about all of the things in my head. What's going on inside of me that's creating this conflict? I'm building an awareness, not only emotional regulating what I'm feeling, but also I'm understanding where I'm coming from. Because the most important person in the conflict is always you. You are the person that you have to understand what's going on in your head, what's going on in your heart. That's what you're bringing, but that's what you have to understand. So now I'm taking a second to understand that. So I'm going to ask him, so tell me why you're upset with this purchase. What was it about this that really bugs you? I'm not going to assume he's mad just because I spent the money and didn't ask. I'm not going to assume that he thinks that's wasteful and that's why. I really want to know. So I'm going to ask him, why are you upset that I bought that? Let's say I bought a new dress. We'll do that. I bought a new dress. He's mad that I bought a new dress. It's okay. I don't understand this. Why are you upset that I bought a new dress? Tell me about this. And when I ask him the question, and then he says to me, I'm upset because I already bought it for you and it's upstairs in the closet and I was going to give it to you as a gift next week. And this is why I'm upset with you. Oh, this is why you're upset with me. Wow. Now I can respond, I am so sorry. I didn't know that you were going to buy it for me. He's, yeah, you told me you liked it a month ago. I got it as a surprise for you. It's upstairs in the closet. And now you have 2 of them. So now this conflict is now de-escalated. We understand what's happening. Oh, thank you. I'll return this one. I'll take this one back. I'd rather have the one that you bought for me.
Right.
And I know there's much more extreme examples of the different types of conflict we get into as partners, but it's really sometimes that fast in terms of stopping, taking a second to assess where we are internally. But I'm going to tell you something, Elisa, the biggest part of Spark, the thing that really makes it so powerful is the ask and not assume. Because so often when we get in conflict with people, we are making assumptions about what their motivations are, about what their actions mean to us. We assign meaning to those things. And when we're doing that, we're making those assumptions and we don't take the time to address those assumptions is where conflict can really escalate.
I love that. And I'm going to go back to, you kept using the word fight, and I was wishing you would say conflict instead. And the reason I'm pointing out the difference between fight and conflict is because, yes, you don't want to fight in front of the kids, but if you can resolve conflict in front of them,
yes,
about the appropriate topic, there will be some topics that they do not need to hear about. And then it's again appropriate, even if you're not going to fight, if you're going to spark it out. Right? I'm going to use that as a verb.
Yes.
Because it's not appropriate for those little ears to hear. But I would love for them to see appropriate conflict resolution right in front of them about topics that are. You're not fighting, you're resolving a conflict using this methodology.
Yes. And I think one of the biggest things about using things like Spark is that it is something that can happen very quickly. It is something that once you practice it a few times, and it does take practice. And the first many times people will start to do this, a lot of times it's like, oh, I didn't go through the steps in order. You don't have to go through the steps in order. Stopping and pausing are important. But to me, the biggest part of that, once you've stopped and paused, as long as you've been able to ask questions and been curious and exercising that curiosity in front of the little ears about, I really want to know what's going on. I think the exercise of curiosity becomes very powerful, and it also reinforces, I think, children's natural curiosity. We're encouraging that. Sometimes I know, as for me as a parent, sometimes I didn't do as good a job of encouraging my children's natural curiosity. My son was the biggest, why, mom? Why, mom? Mom, why? You know, and my
You're
mother-in-law
human.
told me, yes, exactly.
We're so
Um,
nice.
I love the idea of, for appropriate things or things that happen. Sometimes things happen so quickly we don't realize we're in conflict,
Right.
and then all of a sudden we are. That you still have the opportunity to exhibit the ability to be introspective and inquisitive at the same time. And those things really do lead to a dialogue that leads to, at the very least, a strengthening of the relationship and possibly creating a better outcome.
I really love that. And as you're talking, I'm thinking, but it takes two to tango. And I'm thinking, I want to hear your take on that, because can this be done when only one party knows how to do it?
Yes.
How?
Oh, 100%. 100%.
How?
So the biggest thing, if you're in a conflict with somebody else who is clearly not interested in de-escalating, because that happens a lot, right? That happens a lot to us professionally. We can be someplace that we're in a conflict and we recognize that we're in it because we can feel it. We've practiced and hopefully have that sensation awareness that, oh yeah, this doesn't feel good. And okay, I'll throw this out there. I'm in the gas station and I'm putting gas in my car, and some guy walks up to me and he's really mad because he thinks I cut him off to get to the gas pump when he's trying to get to the gas pump. So he's really mad at me. Now, this is a public place, and I'm assuming this person is not trying to get violent with me. And again, my martial artist might be showing because I'm probably going to go to my defensive my self-defense stance, but that's for a different podcast. That's a different class. But let's say that this is somebody who is not physically threatening me. And he starts yelling at me, and I'm gonna say, stop. I can say that. I can say that really loud. And it might shock him, but I'm gonna put my hand up, I'm gonna say, stop. And I'm gonna take a second and I'm gonna assess. And maybe that assessment might be just making sure my personal safety is good, making sure my space is good. But I'm gonna say, take a step back, make sure that I'm taking a deep breath, and I'm gonna ask him, hey man, what's up? And that may be as simple as it is. I'm not going to yell at him, because I think what happens sometimes when people start spark, they do stop, they do pause, but then the next thing they do is, what are you doing? What are you thinking? What's wrong with you? We're not de-escalating at that point. And the other thing that happens when we start to do that is we put the other person on the defensive. We're not bringing them into the process. I want to bring you into my process. But now I'm going to ask him, hey man, what's up? Is everything okay? What's wrong? And then at that point, you may say, oh, all of a sudden I've de-escalated. Oh my gosh, I'm really sorry. My wife's in the hospital and I'm really trying to get there, but I've got no gas. I'm like, oh, dude, I get you. Let me pull off to the side,
Right.
push your gas in. All good. Don't worry. Because, oh, thank you so much. I was really stressed about it. No, it's all good. And I think a lot of times when we get in situations like that, where there's one person who's clearly in this very conflict mode and we are clearly trying to de-escalate it, that giving them an opportunity to say what's going on. Again, I could just assume this guy's a jerk. What is he doing? And I'm never gonna get to a point where I can not even get to resolution, where I can get to a point that we've created a dialogue. Maybe all I want to do in this moment is just to create an opportunity to talk to this person and find out what's going on. And this could be a patient that's really mad at us. This could be a family member that's really mad at us. This could be any of those situations where clearly there's somebody in front of me who is in conflict that I want to find a way through. It absolutely works with one person.
I love that. And that's so empowering, because how often does that happen, that you have both parties who know spark, right?
Mhm.
Or even if you have a couple,
Yeah,
I was thinking of a couple where someone
right.
listens to this and they say, I want to do this. And the husband's, that baloney, emotional stuff, I'm not interested in that. And then there you
Yep.
are,
Yep.
single parenting this, right? So I
Yes.
think that's really valuable. And it's empowering, because you might think, I'm disempowered because I don't have two to tango. I don't have a partner in this, right? Or I'm disempowered because I feel someone's taking advantage of me. But it's not true. It's very empowering.
Absolutely. If anything, you have this wonderful opportunity to not only let somebody else's voice be heard, your voice is being heard, but you're ultimately creating a stronger bond by using a process like this.
And you are able to de-escalate it, right? And resolve the conflict just from your actions alone, potentially. I'm just
Yes.
saying potentially. And so we could talk forever. And you've given me a lot of your time before we started also. So I want to let you go. I want to thank you so much for doing this with me. And now we're going to have to go talk about our book that we have to write.
Yes. That's our next project. I love it.
Next project. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lisa. This has been awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Kids Matter. Raising healthy, happy children takes a village, and I'm grateful you're part of ours. If today's conversation resonated with you, please share this episode with another parent, grandparent, teacher, or anyone who cares about kids. Together, we can build the supportive community our children deserve. I'd love to hear from you. Share your thoughts, questions, or suggestions for future topics at kidsmatterpodcast@gmail.com with no exclamation point. Your voice truly matters. Until next time, keep advocating for the children in your life because kids really do matter. They are our future. I'm Dr. Elisa Minkin, and this has been Kids Matter. Please note that while I am a pediatrician, I am not your child's pediatrician. This podcast is for informational purposes only and does not constitute medical advice. For any medical concerns or decisions, please reach out to your child's healthcare professional.